All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Forward Thinking Founders. We'll be talking to founders about their companies, their visions for the future, and how the two collide. Today, I'm very excited to be talking to Benjamin Laufer, who's the co-founder of Gensight. Welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going well. Thanks for having me, Matt.
Excited to have you on and learn more about what you are working on. For people that haven't heard of Gensight, what is it? What are you working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Gensight, we're helping creators better leverage data to make more informed decisions at the content ideation and production phase of their process. So right now we're working with primarily YouTubers, and then we're going to be expanding out from there to podcasters, writers, and other creatives.
This is great because I am a creator. I write and I have a podcast. So this is awesome. Tell me a little bit more about, at least maybe right now, because you're just working with YouTubers. How does this work? If someone was to work with you or engage you, what does that look like in regards to Gensight?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a suite of tools right now, and we're operating in kind of semi-stealth capacity. But our core product at a high level is that we are taking in data from a number of different platforms, YouTube primarily, and then we're looking at that and essentially we're taking longitudinal data across many creators, and then we're trying to extrapolate useful insights that can help creators make more informed decisions when they go to make their next video. So an example of that might be, okay, you look at the all of the thumbnails from their past video and you scrape all that information and you look at the view counts and the click-through rates, and you help creators essentially better understand what types of thumbnails should they be creating for future videos to optimize for their future click-through rates and video views and all of that. And so what we do is essentially look at from all the data that is available, both third-party data, and then we're also collecting first-party data from fans. Can creators use that to make more informed decisions, and can we essentially predict what they should do from all of that? And we couple that with a number of tools for the pre-production process that enable them to essentially think more granularly about what their title should look like, and what their title should be, how long their videos should be at different moments in their video, how should they be editing it to maximize retention over the course of it. And so that's kind of at a high level what we're working on.
And walk me through a little bit about why did you decide to start this? What's the origin story for Gensight, and kind of how'd you get started?
I was a freshman at university this past year, and I was working on a startup that raised a bit of money, and we were putting some of that money towards influencer marketing, essentially. And I began to work with a couple micro influencers and became close friends with them just through that. We were a really small team, so I was handling a lot of the influencer marketing stuff, and over time ended up helping them out with some business endeavors, and ultimately became the manager of a few content creators. And I saw through working with them that there was a ton that could be improved. I think this was just kind of at the cusp of the creator economy craze that has gone on for the past X number of months, and I wanted to kind of get my hands dirty in that space. My previous startup closed down due to COVID. It was kind of predicated on people being able to engage in person, and so that was really the primary impetus. I'd say zooming out a bit, I'm really interested across Gensight and some of my other endeavors about how I can create a landscape where outsiders and alternatives can find the support and resources they need to succeed. So I think creators for a long time have operated at the fringes and haven't gotten the support they need, whether to monetize successfully, whether in regards to mental health, whatever it might be. And I'm interested in creating a landscape where anyone, my younger sister, for example, is interested in potentially becoming a content creator, as many young people are. And right now, as I kind of look at how a lot of creators are going about making money, it's incredibly challenging. And so I really want to create a space where people who want to engage in creative endeavors can thrive and make a sustainable income.
For people listening that may not be as aware of what's going on in the creator economy and the boom and the fact you just mentioned a lot of young people want to create content, like they might be like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Can you kind of give me an idea of what has kind of gone on in the last year or two in the creator economy, and just give us kind of the lay of the land? And also, if you want, maybe some predictions for like where things are going for this market specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the trends in the creator space can be broadly summarized as creators themselves and people in tech, or people operating outside of the creator space but building for the creator space, have seen have kind of seen themselves for creators and seen creators for those who are operating outside of it. Creators are continually moving essentially towards thinking of themselves as businesses and entrepreneurs and startups. And I think one is creators have been around for a while. So I think it isn't necessarily new for creators to be thinking about how they can make money. I think it's new for people in tech, and they've seen that there's an interesting opportunity here. But as people in tech and creators included are thinking more about, okay, what does it look like for a creator to not only be a creator, but to be a CEO or to run a company where there are adjacent products, where there are other things that kind of are on the periphery of their main channel, whether that be YouTube, TikTok, or whatever their social channels are. There is a ton of backend infrastructure. There are a ton of tools that need to be built for that. And so I think, we saw, you see with startups, for example, right? There are a ton of tools that enable startups to, let's just take data, for example, because that's kind of in the realm that I'm involved in, that enable startups to leverage data to make more informed decisions. And for anyone who's been involved in a startup, whether you're in marketing or product or whatever it might be, you're taking in tons and tons of data points. If you have access to them for an early stage startup, you might not have very good data, but you're taking customer feedback and you're using that to better inform how you iterate on your product or service and essentially get towards product market fit. Creators don't really have that. They have a bunch of data that is in the analytics pages for the platforms that they work in, but it's pretty limited. And their cross-platform data is heavily siloed. So for creators, it's really challenging to leverage that to make any type of informed decisions. And so that's kind of one example of how, even though creators are thinking about themselves like startups and people in the tech scene are building for creators as if they were companies and startups and building the tools for them, there's still a huge lag. And so I think most of what's happened in the creator space has been as a result of that kind of change in mindset, rather than seeing creators as these, again, kind of people operating at the fringes, seeing them as a just fundamental part of how young people engage with the world and how young people will continue to engage with the world, and that they aren't really going away anywhere soon, anytime soon.
Yeah, no, 100%. I completely agree with that, and I'm kind of interested to see what happens as kind of decades pass and young people become a little older and they become more mainstream, and like almost like what happens to media and what that landscape looks like when it's almost dominated by a ton of just individuals, like what I used to call them, like one person media companies. So it's I think that's awesome. If you were to look out, into the future for you specifically for Gensight, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road, what would you think, what would you kind of say the vision is for what you're doing? Or I guess in other words, what is the big picture and what direction are you rowing in?
Sure. So I think, I mentioned earlier when I was giving the description for Gensight that we're particularly focused on leveraging data for the content ideation and production phase of the creative process. Our broader vision is, how can we essentially take the work that a content strategist or a data scientist or anyone on some of the larger creative teams, so take Mr. Beast or Logan Paul, or how can we take essentially the resources and the infrastructure that they've built and the workflow of their teams and productize that and democratize that across the broad swath of creators. And so that exists not only kind of within the content ideation and production phase, but it exists for monetization, it exists for community building. And I think right now what we're seeing is that a lot of what the bigger creators have learned has not kind of trickled down to the smaller creators. You have within a lot of corporate jobs, for example, there are mentorship programs, right, for younger people to be able to learn essentially the ropes. There are a ton of readings you can do to better understand how to be a good PM, for example, whatever it might be. But for the creator space, if you're going to hire, you really have to learn everything yourself, unless you have a kind of informal mentor-mentee relationship with some larger creator. And so the broader vision is, how can we take essentially the infrastructure and the resources of the big creators and productize that for the middle class?
Yeah, this is great. I think it's an important mission, an important vision, and I hope it happens. But in order to kind of make it happen, you need some help, right? It takes a village to make a startup work and get off the ground. So my question for you is, how can the forward-thinking founders community help? Are you hiring? Are you looking for capital investors? Looking for creators or customers? How can we assist?
Absolutely, and appreciate you offering that. So I think there are kind of there are two primary things that come to mind. One is that we'll be looking to hire an engineer in the next few weeks. We'll be putting out a careers page quite soon, and we'll be putting that out after we have two drops coming out. One with which is a collaboration with a larger YouTuber, and one that's for helping creators on Clubhouse monetize better. And both of those we're going to be trying to leverage some of the kind of attention they get to bring on a really talented engineer who can help build the future of the space with us. So that's the first piece is if you're an engineer or know someone who is in the creator space, would love to be able to speak with them and convince them of our vision. The second one is we'll be looking to fundraise probably around a month from now. And if you are or know anyone who's an investor in the space and is excited about what our vision is, would love to get the chance to chat with them.
And then if anyone, is interested in what you just said and wants to get involved or, chat, how can they find you online? Do you have a website, social media handles, email? How can someone get in touch?
The best place to find us, and it's a little barren right now if you look, but is gensight.app. So that's GENSIGHT.app. And you can also reach me at gensight.app. There isn't a whole ton online you'll be able to find, but happy to have a conversation with you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for the time.